Shalom, party people, and welcome to the 12th Sea. Continuing with human factors, stress. So there's a couple different kinds of stress. There is acute stress, and then there's chronic stress. With acute stress, it is something that happens and then it's over. It's not a reoccurring thing. That doesn't mean that it doesn't take a while. That doesn't mean it doesn't go on for a day or two. But acute stress is typically a single event that it goes on for a little while, it is dealt with, and you move on. Doesn't mean that it doesn't weigh on you, doesn't mean that you don't have, lasting effects from an acute stress situation. Because even though it's considered acute, a car accident, which you may be dealing with ramifications from a car accident for a while, technically can be considered acute stress. Now, when it moves from acute to chronic, if it is causing long-term, day in, day out, all the time stress, or it is multiple events where it is stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking, and then the pressure just never gets released, you are moving into chronic stress situations. Can acute stress become chronic? Yes, it can. Can several situations stack and become chronic stress? Yes, they can. When we're dealing with chronic stress, we're dealing with a lot of acute stress that has added up, plus major stressor events that are long-term, ongoing, and are never really truly being dealt with. What type of stress events are we dealing with? Well, we've got a few different kinds. We have internal stress and we have external stress. The internal stress is the stress that we put on ourselves. This can be pressure that we put on ourselves of, I don't really like the way that I look. And so, I'm ashamed when I eat Zooms and Wham-Whams. And you are building that up in and of yourself. You don't have other people who are adding to that stressor that you're adding. And so it is solely on you, and that is an internal stress. Can that become chronic? Of course it can. If it is something that is occupying large portions of your day-to-day thoughts all the time, yeah, especially when it gets hard to function, you could be moving into chronic stress situations just off of something that you put on yourself. Pressure and stress do go hand in hand a lot of times. Let's boil down to this. Before we deal with external stressors, what is stress? It is a biomechanism that feeds back to your brain saying, hey, something is wrong and we need to do something about this. If you leave it unaddressed, the stress will continue and it will build. If you have already dealt with it and you're still stressing about it, one of a couple of things have happened. Either you didn't really deal with it, or you may be dealing with some type of an onset of post-traumatic stress to where you've already dealt with everything that's going on, but your brain is not letting you let go of what happened. And those things need to be dealt with. That is where I would highly recommend that you reach out to a mental health professional. I am not one at all, but I have talked to a few before. And I tell you what, it makes a huge difference. Our bodies need physical therapy. Why in the world do our brains not need mental therapy? Of course they do. That doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It just means that something needs to be addressed. It happens. Take care of your brain. When we have external stresses or external stressors, that doesn't mean that the internal stressor's not there too. External can build on the internal, and it can really be in a situation that could cripple you if you don't let it, or if you let it spiral out of control. External stress can be money problems. And you may be the best budgeter in the world. You may be taking care of bills. You may have a little bit saved up and doing well. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have money problems. It can be an issue. You can lose a job. There can be a natural disaster that comes through, and that affects your money. It can happen. You can have natural disasters. You have a tornado hit your house, tell me you're not going to be going through some level of stress. I'm sure you will be. You know, you could have somebody in your life who is going through a crisis, and you may be dealing with onsets of stress just by being a bystander to that. It happens. It happens a lot. Maybe you're bearing a little bit of the extra workload because a coworker is out sick all the time. You know, it's terrible. I've had coworkers who have had family members that had cancer, and so they had to go take care of their family members. Rightfully so. No shame in any of that. Do what you got to do, take care of your family. And that left their workload at work on those of us who were still there. And if things weren't managed well to where we're all drowning in our own work and then you add more work on top of that, tell me that that's not stress. It does stack. You know, I used to tell my my guys in the class that I taught when I was teaching the class in prison that shit doesn't roll downhill, it stacks. Well, stress can stack too. And that tends to be a pretty big problem. You know, you may have physical stress where you're just moving your body and lifting heavy things all the time, and that is causing wear and tear on your joints, that's causing wear and tear on your energy levels, that's causing wear and tear on just the normal functions of your body. We definitely have already talked about mental stressors, and whether that's something internal that we put on ourselves or all the external stuff is just starting to really weigh down, it gets there. Financial, we've already hit on that a little bit. What about family stress? If you have a family member that is going through something, you're going to be feeling the stress of that too. You know, you hear the phrase, when mama's not happy, nobody in the house is. Well, that kind of plays into it. They say happy wife, happy life, but I'm a bigger believer in happy spouse, happy house. If somebody in your life who's close to you is dealing with a lot of stress, that is going to trickle over. It just happens. What are some things we can do about stress? You may not fix it overnight, but number one, sit down and write out why you're stressed. I am stressed because I'm not getting enough sleep, and it is causing me to not have the best sound judgment, and I've got, you know, financial things left and right that are going at it, and, you know, these people in my life are sick, and I'm trying to take care of them on top of doing my job, and fill in the blank. These are the things that are stressing me out. Form a plan. Pick the most important thing on that list of things that are stressing you out, and write out 1 to 2 sentences of something you can do about it right now. And do it. If you address the stress, it will start to go away. If you leave it there, it will continue to fester. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard. Of course it's going to be hard. Nothing that's worth doing is easy. Write down what is stressing you. Just writing it down is seriously going to change things for you. Number 2, talk to somebody. Absolutely talk to somebody. I highly recommend talking to somebody who is a professional, but even if you are just talking to your best friend, your spouse, your neighbor, somebody, your dog, just talking about it, just verbalizing what the problem is, it lifts some of the burden, because you are now starting to organize some of your thoughts just by getting them out there. You're organizing them and writing them down, and you're organizing them by verbalizing what's going on. Also, verbalize what you can do about it. All right, I'm not getting enough sleep, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, you know, spend 20 to 30 extra minutes in the evening getting all my stuff ready for tomorrow, get it all done. And now, I'm going to go lay down instead of doom scrolling on Instagram for 45 minutes. Lay down, get some sleep, wash, rinse, repeat. Keep going. You are now in the proactive stage of taking care of some things that are going on. You're now able to tell your brain, hey, I'm doing something about this stress. And if it's not working, reassess. Keep going again. You will not be able to solve every problem. I'm sorry, some people get cancer, some people die. You know, people lose their jobs. It happens. How you respond to that will tell everybody everything that is actually going on. If you respond well, it is showing your character. If you respond poorly, and I'm not saying emotionally, feel your feels, feel your emotions, get them out. But if you just break and you never get back up, you are showing everybody who is out there that you're letting the stress win. Do not do this alone. Have people to help bear the burden with you. Write down what is bothering you. Talk to somebody. That implies that you will have people to talk to. Finally, Mr. Miyagi gave this advice, and if you've ever been in refuge training, you heard this plenty of times. Breathe. Mr. Miyagi said, breathe. Don't forget to breathe. Breathing, very important. In refuge training, it was more, breathe from the diaphragm. Breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Just doing that a few times will automatically lower your blood pressure, automatically lower your heart rate, automatically send oxygen to your brain to where you can now start addressing things that are going on. It's that tactical pause. After you get that, start being proactive about something. Jocko talks about default aggressive. Do something. It is better than doing nothing and letting things build up. I would love to hear comments that you guys have. Tell me about stress that's going on. Tell me how you're dealing with it. Go do hard things.